Welcome back to Extra Extra. Today, we're diving into some of the biggest questions surrounding the final season of Stranger Things. We're breaking down the hottest topics fans are discussing, the theories that keep circulating, and the predictions that have everyone debating online. You'll also hear from viewers themselves, because I'll be sharing clips of fan opinions throughout this breakdown. Let's get straight into it. One of the biggest conversations happening right now is the question, who is the real villain of Stranger Things? For years, Vecna has been positioned as the mastermind behind much of the chaos, from manipulating the Upside Down to influencing events long before the group even knew he existed. But a growing number of fans believe something even bigger is at play. Some viewers argue that Vecna might not be the top of the hierarchy at all. They point to the storm-like entity, often referred to as the Mind Flayer or the Shadow Monster, suggesting that this creature represents the true source of evil. According to this viewpoint, Vecna may be powerful, but even he could be operating under a greater force that predates him. You'll hear fans debating whether Vecna created the Mind Flayer, or whether the Mind Flayer found Vecna and simply chose him as a vessel. This argument opens the door for a much larger mythology to be explored in the upcoming season. Another hot topic centers on what the final season is really building toward. Is this leading to a full-scale war in Hawkins? A deeper reveal of the Upside Down's origins? Or will the show explore the characters' personal ties to the supernatural more than ever before? Many fans believe Season 5 is setting up a direct confrontation between the real world and the Upside Down, something bigger than anything we've seen so far. Others think the final season will focus heavily on the emotional connections between the characters, especially those whose stories began all the way back in Season 1. Will Byers remains one of the most crucial and mysterious characters in the entire series, and fans are predicting he will finally take center stage again. Viewers believe Will's connection to the Upside Down isn't just a leftover effect, it's important. He can sense Vecna. He feels the presence of the Upside Down. He experiences chills and visions that no one else does. Many fans predict that Will might be the one who can locate Vecna or expose his weakness. Some even think Will may be used as a target or vessel by Vecna, forcing the group to try to save him again. On the other side, there are theories that Will could be the key to defeating Vecna entirely, using the connection that once made him vulnerable as a source of strength.
Will Byers from Stranger Things is most likely already dead, and has been since Season 1. Now, I understand that's a bold statement, but allow me to justify how that just might be the case. So in the recent teaser trailer we saw yesterday at Netflix's Dumb, we see this specific figure within a giant wall within the Upside Down. With that, both Steve and Dustin are there to witness it. Now, in terms of Will Byers, ever since he disappeared and came back, he's always had some sort of affinity with the things in the Upside Down. Being able to kind of predict where things were, being able to feel things in the back of his neck and understand that there is something there that's watching them. That or there's an impending doom. Probably justifying this scene right here that we see in the trailer where he tells Steve to run. Now, how much are y'all willing to bet that Stranger Things Season 5 is going to pull a Resident Evil Village and actually tell us that Will Byers has been dead this entire time, just the Upside Down has been keeping him alive? And if you've not played Resident Evil Village, basically the main character played in the last game is actually kept alive by the Megamycete, but he was killed off in the first game. Only to find out that the only reason he's been able to survive is because the one thing he's trying to stop is keeping him alive. And it's a hard pill to swallow when he realizes that that's the case, as he begins to start crumbling because he just killed the one thing that was keeping him alive. I think that's the exact same thing that's happening with Will Byers in Stranger Things. Something or someone is keeping him alive in the Upside Down, and possibly making a complete clone of him, using his memories to infiltrate the real world. That, or he was infected and it's only a matter of time before he gets inevitably. I think it's a very interesting theory, and in all reality, I don't think it's very far off. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I probably am, but I think that's still a very interesting idea to go off of.
My prediction for Will Byers for Season 5 is he's going to confess his love to Mike. Mike is going to be weirded out. Mike and Will no longer be on speaking terms. Ella's gonna find out, and she's gonna be giving Will the cold shoulder. And Jonathan, he's gonna be too busy to even pay attention because he's gonna be, all into the, Steve and Nancy drama. And Joyce, she's gonna be too busy hopping on Hopper's. So, Will is not gonna have anybody to talk to. He's gonna be more alone than ever before. This is when Vecna swoops in and takes control of him. And we fast forward to the end. I do believe he's gonna, go back to normal and he's gonna survive. He's been through too much just to pack him up. Like, no, it's not gonna happen.
Next, let's talk about 11. Fans have a lot to say about where her character is heading. Many predict that we'll see her powers grow even stronger, possibly returning to or surpassing her Season 2 and Season 3 abilities. Others think she may unlock a new ability that plays a major role in the final battle. But with power comes sacrifice, and some fans believe 11's story may end in a dramatic and emotional way. There are theories that her last confrontation with Vecna could demand everything from her, either physically or emotionally. Still, many viewers argue that 11 deserves a hopeful ending after everything she's been through. Whichever direction the story takes, the consensus is clear. 11 will be at the heart of the final season's biggest moment.
Question: what if 11 can somehow get connected into the hive mind and have control of these monsters? Could she theoretically turn them against Vecna? Could we see a Demogorgon coming after Vecna and trying to attack him?
Hey, you are actually a genius. I'm not even joking. You are a genius. You've just given me a new theory. So like you said, what if 11 flips the upside down around and Vecna gets stuck in the Hawkins that we know right now that's being destroyed? But what if, while that happens, 11 sacrifices herself and goes with Vecna and the upside down turns into the new normal? Because why would they mention that it's stuck in time from when Will disappeared, if not to say that it's going to go back to Season 1 and none of this is ever going to happen? Let me see if I can try to break it down, because I can't get the words out. I can't formulate a sentence that makes sense. So Vecna and 11 are now in the Hawkins that we know. The one that's literally just being ripped apart. The one that we've watched since Season 1. However, for all the other characters, the old Hawkins that was in the Upside Down, where Vecna was, is frozen in time from when the night Will disappeared. What if that resumes? That Upside Down hasn't changed since then. So what if that becomes the new normal for the characters we know and love? And the only way that it can actually remain that way is if 11 sacrifices herself to be with Vecna. What a theory.
So I recently came across this Easter egg in Stranger Things Season 4. It shows 11 and Henry Creel in the Rainbow Room. But, as you can see, something's off. The rainbow is flipped on both sides. So, what could this mean? The Duffer Brothers are known for not doing things on accident. The rainbow is opposite on both sides. So this strategic placement could mean something for Season 5. Let me know what your thoughts are.
One of the hottest and most sensitive topics among fans is the question of who might not make it out of the final season. Stranger Things is known for emotional moments, and many viewers believe the last chapter will include at least one major loss. Characters frequently mentioned include Will, because of his connection to the upside-down Steve, who many fear is being set up for a heroic sacrifice max, depending on whether she wakes up Hopper, who already escaped death once in 11, simply because her story has been central from the very beginning. These predictions aren't facts, just discussions happening across fan communities, but they definitely show how emotionally invested viewers are as the story approaches its conclusion.
My Stranger Things predictions, because tomorrow is the last season ever. Steve dies, Mike dies, 11 dies, Will dies or is a traitor. The 11 open the door and switch places with Will theory is correct. Hopper dies, Joyce dies, Nancy dies, Lucas dies, Max dies, Dustin dies, and yeah, pretty much everybody just dies.
Stranger Things Season 5 just around the corner. I'm going to give all my death predictions right out on the table, going from least likely to die to most fucked, right? So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. Coming in with a 5%, I have Erica Sinclair. I do not see them killing her off. It makes no sense. It does not make any sense whatsoever. The audience has somewhat of a connection to her, but most of the characters don't. It really would only be affecting Lucas and, I don't know, maybe some of the other characters they introduce. Doesn't make sense, not gonna happen. Coming in with another 5%, I have Max. If they were gonna kill her off, it would have been last season. If they kill her off this season, it's just a big fuck you, and it's really just, you know, kind of kicking Max while she's on the ground. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Coming in with another 5%, I have Hopper. If he was gonna die, it would have been in season 3, like Max, you know what I mean? They're not going to kill him off. It just doesn't make sense. We already got that emotion with season 3. It would be kind of redundant to do it again in season 5. So, with that being said, he's not dying. Now we have characters who I actually have a probable chance of maybe dying. We have 10% for Mike, right? The only way I see Mike dying is him sacrificing himself for 11. That's it. That's literally it. Maybe like Will, maybe, but outside of that, he's fine. At 25%, I have Joyce. This woman has been through enough already. She does not need any more on her plate. The only way I could see her sacrificing herself is for Will or Jonathan or maybe Hopper. Besides that, doesn't make much sense. She's like, maybe they'll write her like, okay, well, maybe she's been enough already. Let's just have her throw herself out there for, you know, the people she loves. Other than that, I don't see her dying. It doesn't make much sense. Now we're actually getting somewhere. Coming in at 35%, I have Nancy. Look at her rocking the Eddie Munson, bro. What the fuck? For one, Nancy is very capable. She can handle herself. She can really protect herself. So that's going to help her in a lot of situations that the Duffer Brothers try to write her in. But two, she has too many people that would be willing to sacrifice themselves for her, right? That obviously includes all of her family, right? So her mom, her dad, and Mike. And then also Jonathan and Steve. So yeah, I think she's going to be fine. If they do kill her, I think it's likely because I think one of the Wheelers will die, but not mainly her. Coming in with 40%, I have Dustin Henderson. I don't see it very likely that they kill him off. I don't really want to say they will, but it's still a big chance that he could die simply because he's going to be going way out of his way to really like fight Vecna and the Upside Down more than he ever has in the past, which has kind of saved him. Obviously, Dustin has always been trying to prove himself. He's always been trying to take action. But I think necessarily here now, he's really about it because he's trying to honor Eddie's legacy. That being said, though, I just don't really see him dying. Maybe he sacrifices himself for Steve or somebody else. I don't know. I don't really see it. I think he lives. I think he'll be fine. Then again, could be totally wrong. Who knows? Coming in with 50%, we have Will. Obviously, we know Will plays a big part with Vecna, so that's why I don't have him, like, too low. I don't necessarily think Will's going to die, but he's obviously super involved with Vecna, so there's nearly no way of telling. That's why I have him at 50. I think it's a coin toss, honestly. Overall, though, Will's been through so much that it doesn't really make sense to kill him, and we know that Vecna and all the other people in the end, Upside Down, are not trying to kill Will. They're wanting to use him. The only way Will actually dies is if he sacrifices himself to cut off the connection from the Upside Down somehow. That's it, in my opinion. Coming in at 50% as well, I have Steve. For 3 seasons in a row now, we're going on 3 seasons in a row, it has been hinted that Steve could die. Actually, in fact, every single season, it's honestly been thought that Steve might die. Season 1, he was actually supposed to be, like, written off or die. And Season 2, he could very well have likely have died to those Demodogs. Season 3, they were kind of hinting the idea of, like, maybe him going with Billy or something. Season 4 was when everybody thought he was fucking cooked, because they knew that its tensions were, like, rising, and it was like, okay, maybe he's done. But then now we're at 5, and we're like, okay, well, who the fuck knows? Let's just hope. I think the Duffer Brothers see that everybody knows that Steve could die, or like that he might die, and they don't want him to. So the Duffer Brothers are kind of like sitting there like with the switch, like, do we do it or do we not? Because at one hand, everybody knows that it'd be very impactful and it would be like very sad, right? And it would impact a lot of characters, which is a big element of like story writing whenever you kill a character. However, at the same time, the Duffer Brothers know that it's very predictable, right? Maybe they're going to try to switch something up. If Steve dies, however, it will absolutely be for a sacrifice, right? To save someone's life. Maybe for Dustin, maybe for Nancy, maybe for Robin. Hell, maybe even for Jonathan to like really complete his character arc of his redemption. Maybe he just sacrifices himself for everyone. Who really knows? But I think it's a fucking coin toss, honestly. I think it's the same thing with Will. Coming in at 60%, I have Lucas. Now, I don't necessarily think Lucas is going to die, but he's going to be put in a lot of situations where he could actually die because he's trying to protect Matt. In season 4, if you go back, they set up the idea that, like, you know, they're going to have this movie date on Friday. And they kind of, you know, put a close on that with Max's situation, but maybe they're gonna like reverse it and Max comes back but Lucas sacrifices himself for her. I think that's a very likely possibility, or maybe it's for his sister, or both, right? So Lucas has a lot to like sacrifice himself for, so maybe that's how he goes. I think he's definitely up there in likelihood. I just don't think they're gonna pull the trigger on Lucas necessarily. Coming in at 70%, I have Jonathan. There are so many fucking reasons as to why Jonathan could die in this season. For one, Will's his brother, and Will's going to be a big part of the season. He's going to be, a big part with Vecna. I could definitely see Jonathan sacrificing himself in order to save his brother. He could also sacrifice himself to save Nancy, or to save both Nancy and his brother, Will. Also, Jonathan has not had a big role in the past 2, maybe 3 seasons, right? He hasn't had something really big since season 1, maybe 2 if you want to count that, right? So this is going to be a big way to incorporate Jonathan into the final season. I definitely see Jonathan sacrifice as a possibility, like a big possibility. I'm just not sure. I will tell you this much. If Jonathan dies, don't expect Steve to. If Steve dies, don't expect Jonathan to. It would make absolutely no fucking sense for both of them to die. Coming in at 75%, we have Robin. Now, I actually don't think Robin will die, but there is a lot of likelihood to her dying. For one, she's a really easy character for the Duffer Brothers to kill off, right? She was introduced in season 3, and it's something that a lot of Duffer Brothers do. They introduce like these later characters and then find ways to kill them off. I think Robin could be one of those characters, right? We also know that she's going to be around Will a lot, because a lot of this season is going to have to do with Will coming out about his feelings. And who else has done that? Well, obviously it's fucking Robin, right? So maybe Robin sacrifices herself for Steve, or for her love, Vicky, or maybe, Robin dies in order for, loss for Steve, and Jonathan dies for a loss for Nancy, and then that draws Steve and Nancy back together. That's a big possibility. I don't think Robin's necessarily going to die. I think that there's just so much on the table for the Duffer Brothers, and she's one of those characters that they would like to kill. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how to put it, but she has too much on the table that they could, just sweep it clean and get rid of her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. If that makes sense, I make sense, but she's at 75%. Now, at 85%, I mentioned earlier that I think one of the Wheelers are going to die. One of these two are absolutely cooked. I have them at 85%. It's very slim that all the Wheelers make it out of this. They have not been affected just in the slightest at all by any of this. One of them are going to be cooked. One of them are absolutely going to be cooked. I don't know if it's going to be the mom. I don't know if it's going to be the dad. One of them are dead for sure. Coming in at 90%, I have 11, okay? She is absolutely cooked. The 10% that she lives, that's the 10% that Mike sacrifices himself for her. I really don't see a possibility where both of them live together to have a happy future. It just does not work for me. Everything's been telling us that she's going to sacrifice herself. I hope she lives. I really do. Maybe there's a slim chance they both live together, but that being said, I think she's sacrificing herself. Also coming in at 90% is Murray, right? He's fucking cooked. Absolutely fucking cooked. He's going to be one of those characters that goes off at the beginning, like maybe volume 1. I think he's dead, man. I love him too. Like, he's one of my favorite characters. He's dead. There's no saying. In fact, if Enzo comes back, he's also fucking cooked. Throw them two together. And then finally, coming in at 98%, I have Vecna. I don't think he's going to win. The 2% chance that he doesn't, die is 1% is that he has a redemption somehow and, lives through that, which is not even likely. If he was to redeem himself, it's most likely that he's going to die. And then the other 1% is that he just wins. Just flat out wins, right? So I don't think that's likely. I think Vecna's going to lose and he's going to die. So with that being said, let me know what you think about my death percentages. What do you think? Who do you think's going to die? I'm really interested. I cannot wait for this show to come out. Like, this new season. Oh my God, it's going to be so good.
As we head toward the series finale, fans are imagining how the story might close. Some predict a large-scale battle between Hawkins and the forces of the Upside Down. Others think the final fight will focus more on the emotional bonds between the characters and the personal sacrifices required to stop Vecna for good. There's also speculation that the ending may mirror the tone of the first season, bringing the story back to where it began, focusing on Will, 11, and the original friend group. And that brings us to the end of today's deep dive. There's still so much more to explore when it comes to Stranger Things, from unanswered mysteries to new theories that show up every day. If you enjoy these breakdowns and want more updates, stay tuned. There might be more on the way. Thanks for watching Extra Extra. I'll see you next time.